person and not a organization, not a big company. You want to build that relationship. So that's the key to why that works. The other aspects to the yellow letters is they will give you anywhere between 15 to 20% more calls than a normal type of letter. Handwritten, normal letter where it's done by a computer or typed out and so on. Now, that's the handwritten part of it. The other aspect of your yellow letter campaign revolves around the envelope. The style of envelope you're using an invitation style envelope, not your normal number 10 or 12 style envelope. A colored invitation style envelope with those letters folded inside of it with a vanity stamp like Snoopy, Charlie Brown or something on it, and handwritten address, and only your name on the from section, not your name and address. That's the key to that campaign, and it will get your phone to ring off the hook. Now, we gave you guys 2 different marketing campaigns you can use with direct mail. We use a lot of different ones that we teach you with City House Hunters. So I just wanted to give you guys that just to say thank you for being here today. Those are actual campaigns that you can use, copy. If you want to get that actually done yourself, there's a company here in Maryland that does it. They're not paying us any kind of fee. That company is called Apple Press. And they will actually print it out in the yellow letter pad. That's exactly where I got this from. In the yellow letter pad, 1,500 of them for $285. When you guys get them, make sure you pass them around. Those who got the probate ones and those who got the absentee owner ones.
And Charles, you put an offer number on here?
I don't put an offer on there at all. I put a telephone number, and I also put, like I said, on the letter itself, all you're adding is just the address and the name of the person.
What did you say the price was?
$285.95 for $1,500.
As well as part of being part of City House Hunters, the letter is one part, but who you're actually targeting is going to be the second part. I know you'll probably talk about that. One of the advantages of dealing with us right here is that we'll even give you mailing lists that are already pre-targeted if you actually want to, do your
marketing and all that stuff.
Exactly.
But Nate talked about his experience in doing it. I've been doing this business for over 20 years. I've done every kind of deal from commercial, rehabbing, residential, you name it. Over 400 deals. So you have the knowledge here in this room. Kenneth, huge guy in this industry. Been doing real estate for 10 years. Assisted living, residential, you name it. The knowledge is in this room for you to be successful. But all I'm going to ask is one thing. Please, if you're not going to put forth the effort, don't put forth the phone call. Because that's the key. We want to work with people that are going to go out there and bust their assets. That's the key. It's not an easy job. Forget about what the gurus tell you at the courses. Forget about buying the $35,000 fortune builders. You can do this. It's no simple way to do this. Yes, you can build systems. We have a system. We're doing 20 to 25 houses a year. 3 to 4 a month. Yes, you can build a system, but a course is not going to make you a real estate investor. Your effort and the knowledge behind your effort for your growth is going to make you a successful real estate investor. That's the key. Now, let's talk about the aspect of the actual finished product. Tell them what, first of all, this is under contract already, correct?
Correct, yes.
How many days?
It was like less than a week. So it was listed at $579, and we basically got full price, less than a week, and I can't remember the closing cost, but it was very minimal closing cost.
So you got a full price offer.
Yes.
Nope. I mean, very little negotiation because they didn't negotiate the price at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Why this neighborhood?
So, I mean, as people probably are aware, DC is pretty hot right now. So I don't necessarily know if it was this particular neighborhood. In general, we buy all over and we rehab all over. But in terms of what we like to look at, we like to look at higher end neighborhoods within DC. So more like Capitol Hill, Detroit, different areas, and that's just our preference. But we also do, if anybody's familiar with PG County, I mean, we do Palmer Park as well. So we have houses that we're buying for $30,000 and $40,000. Exactly. So we really don't discriminate. Just from a personal, place, I like walking in where it's a little more nice and takes a look at it. I don't know.
I mean, this particular house and how he usually does it, it's all with the area. Like a house sold up the block, then we want to get a house near that house. I mean, we always following the comps. I mean, he's always looking around, and you have to be updated with what is currently selling, what is on the market. I mean, things change like rapidly. Like maybe a year ago they weren't selling this high, but because one person got it, we're going to try to get it. I mean, that's what, if we see a high mark, we're going to try to meet that high mark. But we're not going to go into a $400,000 neighborhood and think we're going to get $569. So it's just a matter of doing your homework and then just going out there. I mean, he's out he says he has a full-time job, is his full-time job, but he has a part-time job that he treats as a full-time job, and real estate is definitely his full-time job. I mean, every day he's out there on the phone. If anybody knows Nate, if you ever work with him, he's going to be calling you, you're going to be calling him. He does a lot of driving. A lot of times it's because he's bored, but he'll call anybody, he'll talk to anybody. It's just about talking and getting it out there. But, question?
What's the condition of this house? What was the issue with it and how did you get it?
Well, the condition, we were meeting with an agent, it was an estate sale, and this one was a little tricky because we didn't even think we were going to get it because it was like a holdout, like some people didn't want to sell it, and then we were going back and forth, but it was just a relationship of...
It was pre-marketed.
Pre-marketing where he met with an agent and we met with them and just looking at hundreds and hundreds of houses, and then it just, some deals work, some deals don't. But this one actually came through because of the estate and it actually closed. We got a good deal on it because we got it pre-market. Typically, when it hits the market for investors, the deal typically doesn't work. I mean, it just gets bidded up. I mean, they may put something on the market like Charles, or they'll tell you they'll put it for maybe 200, but then you see it sell for like 300, and it just goes crazy, especially in DC now. So that's why these letters are very important. And just talking to people, because that's where you're going to find your deals.
Yeah, and I'm going to always tell you guys, your best deals will be the ones that you can get when you're talking to that homeowner. That person or that friendly family member or someone you know. So that's why one of the things you start with when you try to say, well, if I'm going to be a house hunter, if I'm going to try to find deals, who do I know that may have a house that may need to sell it? You start within and you work your way out. Your marketing campaign will be the secret to your success. I always tell people, if you learn how to market, you will never go hungry. Because no matter what happens, you will be able to find deals. So keep marketing in the forefront of what you should do in your business. Direct mail is a huge aspect of your marketing. Keep that in mind. And then you're going to be going through the part where he talked about earlier about this area and actually why this property is so great and why he's got this at this number he has it at. One of the things you want to keep in mind that it's really a product of the value in which these areas will go for. One of the things you have to do as that investor, when open houses are happening in the neighborhoods where you're selling, you got to go by there and take a look at those properties. You need to see what the competition is doing and how were they able to get that dollar amount of 580 and so on, so that when your project is done, you can match it or exceed it. That's one of the most important things you got to do.
You'd be surprised how friendly people are. Like when we're out and about, like say we're walking up and down and we see a house being worked on, I mean, we pretty much walk in and ask, can we take a look around, and the contractors or whoever's working, I mean, they're willing to show you their work, because for the contractors, they want you to see their work and they want to be able to generate business. Yeah. And for us, we're just being nosy, want to see what's going on and how they're renovating it. So, example, the house up the street, they sold. If you looked at this house and looked at this house, you might get a little confused as which is which. I mean, we really copycatted, like, almost, I mean, to the staging and everything. I mean, we definitely are not reinventing the wheel. We pretty much, we don't have any type of creativity.
Yeah, think about it. That's not true. That's not true. Think about it. That's not true. That's not true. Now think about this, guys. This is a look. Just think about this. 7 days on the market. The area up here is selling pretty good. So, not to tell you something, but one of the things you want to do is, Ducky just said, John Paul just said, don't reinvent the wheel. One of the things I would do, I would put together a marketing campaign and start marketing in this area.
Eckington.
And you already know what the time frame of sales are. You already know what the neighbors are looking for in regards to sales. So you got a little blueprint right now as to if you can find a good deal, and a good deal for you guys was at $250, what was it?
260.
260. So you know, if you start marketing up here and you get a homeowner that says, yeah, I'm willing to go, let mine go, it's in bad shape for $230, you have buyers. That's how you create your business. You don't try to reinvent the wheel. Look where the actual buyers are buying at, and then create your marketing around where the buyers are buying at, which will give you the least part of resistance. And then once you find the actual deals, bring them to us.
Like starting with the end in mind.
Right.
That was said before in like many different business books. That's where you always want to start. Start with the end of whatever you do in mind. Now you already know who's buying. You have someone that you can sell it to. That's your end. Now you understand what they're willing to purchase at and to what depth they're willing to go through when it comes to the renovations. You also been giving an example of how to market, what type of words to use with the market, where you can go at and get this printed. So the whole blueprint, the whole step to actually completing a transaction from A to Z and getting it sold was just given to you within the last few hours.
Now,
It's a matter of just actually following those steps out.
jump on.
Real quick, one thing I know you guys may be really excited and want to jump out there and start bird dog and then wholesaling, which is a great thing. But one thing that is really important is because you may not understand the market, you might jump out there and try to start negotiating with the people up front, and that's where a deal can pretty much get lost in the first 10 minutes. Like we go, when we're talking to somebody and we're trying to do a deal, he always says the first person to offer is the one losing. So
Yeah. First one to speak.
yes, first one to speak. So you pretty much, it's really about introducing and being able to like connect the people, like the bird dog and then the wholesaling. If you're at the point where you can wholesale, then you should understand the numbers. But if you're at the point where you're bird dog, and then it's really the introduction to someone that will be able to negotiate in your behalf, because the negotiating in this business is tricky. I mean, you may start at, somebody may think their house is worth $400,000, and then you guys end up closing at $230,000. I mean, it's about managing expectations, and that you can only manage the expectations with knowledge and with proof and with like understanding like their true need of like why they're selling, what's their reason, and the sense of urgency. Of course, the sense of urgency will definitely drive your sales.
And it just touched on a very important part, because I remember a deal we purchased in a great neighborhood of Baltimore. It's Northwood community. And that deal was, when we negotiated that deal, what came out in the negotiation was that all the seller wanted to do was to go to Jamaica. That was what she wanted to do, for her and her daughter to go to Jamaica. So I negotiated that deal the way it would add up for the amount for her to go to Jamaica, for she can have the money for that deal. And that's how we structured that deal and got that deal and sold that property. Well, because all you're doing is listening for the need of the seller, and those needs have to work in the numbers that you need to be at. If the need doesn't work in your numbers, it's a want, not a need. So you have to make sure you're talking about the need of the seller and the motivation behind the deal, because that's going to help you structure the actual deal. You've got to know why they're selling. That's the most important question. Well, because I want to sell. No, but really, why are you selling? Well, I really want to sell. No, really, why are you selling? Oh, my husband has to go to jail and now I got to get some money. You want to find out that need, because that's going to help you structure the deal and the offer.
One thing I want to also add in there too that's really important is when you, as he mentioned, you want to, the negotiating part, things get really tricky. You may want to leave that to someone, if you're a bird dog, that may have more experience. But if you're talking about the negotiation process, this sentence is so important, because the way you start and here is how you're going to finish. When you're talking to someone and you say to someone, how much do you want for this property versus how much do you need, psychologically there's a big difference. And when you start, if you start with someone and you say, how much do you want for this property, they're going to, when you think of want, you think of an excess. Well, I really want $400,000, $500,000. But then, and that's where you start at. And now you're trying to go lower, and that number was already thrown out. When you start the sentence off, well, how much do you need? Psychologically, now they're going to needs. And basically, what do you need to survive? What, a gallon of water every 2 days? Something like that. I'm not saying you're going to go that low, but what I'm stating is that you just frame the argument to work best so that you can get the deal done. So that one sentence I have found to be so crucial. So, how much do you need? Well, how much I need? Let me say, really, if I can get this, I'd be happy. How much do you want? Oh, I want this. Big difference. And the whole conversation, the whole trajectory of the conversation will change based off of that one starting point.
Please turn off your phones if you have the opportunity, if you haven't done so already. Go ahead.
When you approach the seller, how are you able to negotiate if you don't know what possible liens may be on the property? I know all that would come up in a title search, but how do you...
That's a good question. The question is how you negotiate when you don't know what the final numbers are going to be when you're talking about liens and so on. Well, that's where what I like to call a two-step negotiation comes into play. Like I negotiate 90% of my deals on the phone before even seeing the house. And then the second stage of my negotiation is once I come to the house and I realize what the actual work is. So I use two steps. Just the same way I'll do the same situation you just told me. If the person didn't tell you about liens and so on, and then you go to do your lien search and title search, and you find out there's another $10,000 that's owed, then of course it will be adjusted. So then now you're at a new number because of unforeseen liens. So that's a no-brainer that right there. I can easily say, oh, I can't pay 90 because you owe 10,000 worth of liens, where we didn't realize that at first. We're going to have to subtract that $10,000 off. That's an easy one.
It actually, when you're negotiating with the seller, I mean, in that particular scenario, it's really just coming out of their side.
Proceeds,
like
right.
You're giving them a number, and that's pretty much the number that you know will work for you. And then it's up to them to calculate how much they owe, what their liens are. So if they, in that scenario, you agreed upon $100,000, and then you found that there were $10,000 in liens, that's just $10,000 less that they'll be getting in their proceeds.
The difference is what he just stated. When we talk about how you frame your argument, this is so crucial. What you framed it was, this is how much I'm going to purchase it for, not how much I'm going to let you walk away with. That's the whole difference. So when you say, I'm going to purchase it for $200,000, whatever it comes up with is none of my concern. We agree that I can purchase it for $200,000. If the person says that I need to walk away from $200,000, now you're going back to trying to adjust the liens and say, hey, I don't care, I need to walk away with a certain amount. So the way you start again is also how you finish.
Right.
I just had a question about how you got this house. So with the estate negotiation, did you lead with an offer? Did you come in and discuss with them and let them give you the first offer?
Yeah, actually, we did leave with an offer, and then estates, typically, they have a bottom line number that they have to get, and a lot of times attorneys, no offense if attorneys are in here, but once an attorney gets involved, you know, all heck breaks loose. Because what happens with the states, it's a little different. The attorney will basically come up with a value of the estate. So we're working on one now where we've already given an offer. We're waiting for the attorney to run their numbers. And number one, they're running the numbers because typically the house is the biggest asset, and they're using the proceeds to pay off the estate. So sometimes it's realistic, other times it's not. But yeah, and usually in an estate, it's kind of predetermined where you're going to be at.
Yeah, and also probate and estate type situations is not going to be the strategy of marketing for everyone. Because depending on that strategy, you have to have real thick skin. Because you're dealing with people that are very emotional. So it's an extremely difficult niche to get involved with. And it's not for the person that is very sensitive. Because you will get, I'll give you an example, we'll send out 500 letters to people that's in probate and so on, and we'll get calls from somebody to say, you're trying to steal my house. I just lost my husband and now you're trying to steal my house. You have to be able to deal with that type of situation because that person is in an emotional situation. There's a technique to doing this, working with these type of deals, when should you go after them, and so on. But keep in mind, not every strategy is going to be for the investor, especially if you are very sensitive and worried about your feelings and so on. One of the things I like to tell everybody, in this business, you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And if you can do that, you can make a lot of money.
The other thing real quick is that the great thing about real estate and how we all can sleep great at night is that it's a win-win for everybody, because when you're negotiating, you're not negotiating to try to like steal a property from somebody. You're just negotiating to try to get that property at what the fair market value. So when I actually bought this property at $260,000, it might have been a little bit above what the fair market value is, and that's the great thing. So many of the houses, and that's why we like doing full rehabs, because the houses need complete gut jobs, and you're able to pay somebody fair market what that house is actually worth, and still you can make money on the back end. So like for instance, this house over here that we just paid $260,000, that was it. I mean, the house wasn't worth any more than $260,000. So the person who was selling it got exactly the highest point, so they were happy, and then we'll get, you know, hopefully what we hope is the highest point. So it's really, really a win-win.
Right.
I'm sorry, there was some questions in the back.
I had a question. I just sold a property in Maryland, and we had an estate on it. Now, the estate required that it had to get approved through the courts. Do they do the same thing in D.C.? They require to go to the courts for D.C.?
It depends. I don't know the D.C. market with regards to probate. How do you handle it up here?
Yeah, exactly. So, and sometimes it does have to be approved, and that's where the attorney really comes in, because sometimes an attorney can just go by what the tax value. A lot of these houses, you know, they have an assessed tax value, or an attorney could order an appraisal, you know, but yeah, definitely, I would say 90% of them have to be approved by the court.
Now, the other aspect of it is, that's the ones that have creditors involved.
Correct.
Now, the other aspect of it is, when there's a situation where, I just lost my train of thought. I'm getting old, guys. But
Free and clear.
Free and clear.
free and clear, yeah. Well, no. But go ahead, let's move forward. Let's move forward.
All right.
Go ahead.
One more?
Yeah, when you were answering her question, are you saying that you don't have contingencies in any of the offers that you give? No contingencies?
No, not saying that. Not all the time, though. Because depending on the situation, when I buy some deals, if I haven't seen it, my contingency is going there to see it.
Gotcha.
So that's a contingency that I'll have. Okay. But besides that, you're right, it's zero contingency. Okay. When you're dealing with banks, with realtors, I try to have as little contingencies as possible. I'm going to give the highest deposits, especially when I'm dealing with bank REOs, because I want to get that deal better than everybody else. So very little contingencies, but depending on the situation, if I have seen it or haven't seen it or not.
And remember, it's you know, I don't want to make it sound too easy. It's a very competitive market. So as we're sending out yellow letters, other people are sending out yellow letters. And I always ask, you know, the people that I buy from, you know, why did you end up taking our offer? And a lot of times, you know, two things have always resonated. A lot of times I wasn't the highest offer, but they have told me I got the best feeling from you because, you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I was just brought up that way that it is what it is. I just present it, you know, I try to be as honest as possible, and I give them the information and then let them try to make an informed decision. If it works, it works. If not, you know, there's always the next time. And I've even gone as far as helping, you know, if I know that I can't give them the best deal, helping them, you know, find the best deal for themselves, because later on, it always comes back tenfold.
Yeah, now one of the things I want to talk to you about this property is, look at the staging aspect of it. Go by and let them know why you chose to stage or not stage, and what you think the value in doing that when you come to rehab, should you or shouldn't you.
Right.
Well, they say when you stage a property, it just eliminates, like he said, the thinking process for people. When you go in a house and you like, okay, I want to envision, am I going to put my living room furniture here, my chairs here? You just give them a model home. That's why you're pretty much trying to give them a model home to where they can walk in and they don't have any thinking. They're like, okay, I want the house with this furniture, you know, as long as you're doing the staging correct. And also, if you're doing the staging incorrect, you can probably kill a deal. You can go in and they just be like, oh, it just makes the space look bad. And that's along with the colors, the lighting. That's why it's really important to have a clean product to where somebody can come in and feel like, okay, this can be my home. And they can just look and say, okay, oh, I just may want to do, you know, little changes, colors, something. But if they got to go in and they're thinking, oh, I got to do renovation, then you're going to lose a deal plenty. And the staging companies is also with negotiation on different prices and how long you plan on having it on the market. But typically, what's the saying on staging, how quick they sell with the staging and without staging, you get, what, an extra.
Yeah, I can give you that. Yeah, statistically wise, you're talking about anywhere between 10 to 15% more from a house that's not staged in comparison. So that's a reason enough right there. But it still has to be within your budget, depending on what the staging company is going to charge you for that.
One thing I want to add is that I think y'all who know me know that I spend a lot of my time when it comes to real estate talking about psychology and mindset, because at the end of the day, it all works. The biggest difference is the mindset of you, okay? And so what I want to use this to kind of tie into what they were just expressing is this right here. This is proven to be true and has been documented based upon recent MRI machines. The part of the brain that says yes is not the same part of the brain that does thinking. Those are two separate parts. They can figure out when it's happening. So when you're thinking, so as you're saying yes, it's very slim. So when he said that you created the staging process, when a person is walking into the process and they look at it and see themselves in there, they're not thinking. That part of the brain that does the thinking you don't want that to come into a factor, because the odds of no is really high. It's 50-50 chance, right? What you want them to just do is walk in there and visualize themselves in there. Take out the thinking. This is when once that thinking part is out, the only answer left is I like this. Yes, you have to have it so that it can visualize themselves in there. That's an emotional decision right there, not logical. It's emotional. So emotionally, I can walk through. Oh, I can see me cooking in there. Boy, I like that. Man, these lights right here. Oh, I can have dinner right here. This is good. This is good. I got to take my kids can play over there. Oh, where do I sign? There was no thinking involved. That's what marketing's been doing for a long time, and that's how they've been doing it in all the commercials. That's how certain companies stay big. Say McDonald's has been doing it for years, removing the whole thinking process out. And so you just go in there and you just buy. But just to kind of narrow it down, I can go on with this for here for hours. I love this stuff right here. But just tying into what he was just stating, with the whole staging process, there's no thinking in there, just coming as a yes.
Do you have a set amount or a percentage of the total cost of thing that you allow for the staging process? Do you have a maximum amount, or how do they charge?
Yeah, how much do they charge? So it's interesting. On this particular one, we actually went and we bought, the furniture, because when you're doing volume, like he said, it kind of works, because we'll just take it to the next one and we're doing it. On average, there's a bunch of different staging companies, like Charles said, just go out and get 3 to 5 estimates. I'm actually on the next one thinking about using a particular company that will do 3 bedrooms, pretty much this size house, and it'll be a flat $2,000 for the whole time. Now, typically with staging companies, it's like a set fee per month. So this particular company, it's $2,000 regardless of how long the house stays on the market. And then once again, not all staging companies are created equal. Look at their pictures, see if the furniture they're using is pretty nice. It looks like a lot of furniture, but it's really not. I mean, you're talking about one table, a couch here, and then some bedroom sets.
Okay. Any other questions?
So somebody comes in as a bird dogger for your company,
yes.
Okay, and they don't really know anything, okay, let's say, okay, and they find you a deal. How can that person learn how to negotiate the way you do? Do you take them with you, or, do you...
Oh, definitely. I
Well,
mean, it's
through
all
the-
about learning, but go ahead.
Yeah, through that process, and it depends on that deal. One of the things I've learned, and the reason why I'm saying that, because that's what we're going to be doing. You're going to look at us as your personal coaches, your mentors, except you're not paying us any money. You're not paying us $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. You're just bringing us good deals when you find them, which I think is a fair exchange. Is that a fair exchange? Yeah. So that's what we get out of it. We got deals coming from you guys, which means we can always finish doing these rehabs and so on. So sometimes, yes, you will be able to come with us during that process. I'm not going to say it's going to happen all the time, but what happens in the actual system is you're able to see exactly where we are in the process. So when you send a deal, you get an email. The deal is in analysis phase. Then you'll get an email. We've just put a contract on it. Then you'll get another email. We're just going to settlement on this day. Then you'll get an email where you'd like us to send you your check. And that's exactly through the whole process. You're in that whole process. Not to mention, we're available for phone calls and we have training sessions and everything. You're going to be talking to us like you wouldn't believe it, especially those of you who are going to be very active in looking for deals and learning this business. So I hope that answers your question.
And say you send us a deal, by default, you're able to watch the process from start to finish in terms of any time you want to come and visit the house. So it's almost like your virtual rehab where you get to, learn the process. So eventually, if that's your goal, that you want to be the one to do the rehab, it's kind of like a free education.
So we're training you to go out on your own. So that's in essence what it's about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, after the analysis process, let's say the particular the property doesn't qualify. Would you explain to us the reason why?
Well, if the numbers don't work. Yeah, that's easy.
Oh, basically it's always a numbers game.
Right, that's it. If the numbers don't work, for us, we'll say, hey, what's your name?
Michael.
You'll get an email plus a phone call. Hey, Mike, the deal you sent us over there, we did the analysis on it. It's just not enough room there, my friend. You'll get an email that says that. It'll also get a phone call as well. But we'll tell you, hey, keep them coming. And then at that point, you're able to take that deal wherever you want. So you're not obligated to just work with us. If we turn the deal down, take it anywhere you'd like to. Because that's how we feel about it.
And we'll also, as a learning tool, explain why whatever questions you have about that particular deal.
Any questions about this house in particular in regards to, you want to know about, well, let's talk about the selling process. Choosing the right agent to sell it.
Exactly. So, I mean, in terms of choosing the agent, and I'm sure everybody has their own different strategy, what we like to do is we like to partner with agents that have sold other houses within the particular, community. So that's number one. Number two, and, if there's agents in here, no offense, but there's actually right now, it's pretty much a seller's market. So there are a lot of ways that you can actually, everybody knows about the whole commission thing. So there's usually 5 to 6% commission. That's usually half to the buyer's agent. That's the person that brings you the buyer. And then usually half to the seller's agent. Okay? Typically, if we weren't partnered with, say, an agent that brought us the deal and we found the deal on our own, we would typically do a fee-for-service listing where we would find an agent and just pay them a flat fee of, say, $500 or $1,000 to put the property on the MLS. Okay? On an average, so you can figure on an average house like this, 3%, let's just say $15,000, you're saving $14,000 because basically once you put the house on the MLS, the selling agent is done. They're not doing anything else.
Not to say that agents don't do
right, exactly. Not to, I'm sorry, the listing agent. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. There are, and this is where, you work and you develop networks. So if Cheryl has helped me find this house, it's only fair that, am I pronouncing it right? Sherelle, I'm sorry. If Sherelle has helped me find this house and she put in the contract, it would be only fair, and you would have to work it out with Sherelle, but most likely Sherelle would be the one to list it. Even though you could save the money and do a fee for service, it would probably behoove you to let Sherelle list it if you want to get more deals from Sherelle.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, you want to work with people that work with you. Win-win. You always want a win-win solution. You had a question?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask about the decision for the basement. Is that supposed to be a rental unit? Did the market say, or the kitchen up
Okay,
there?
right. So, and the big thing in DC right now is that people are moving in and they like to have what are called like in-law suites or rental units. So somebody, it might be, you know, a young professional that might not necessarily want to pay $579 for the house, but they know that they could rent the basement for income. So in this particular area, we definitely try to give it. It's just that extra option that you're able to rent it out and definitely reduce the rent.
You think that was an issue with the buyer? You think they really wanted that?
I'm sorry?
The buyer who bought
yeah, actually I know for a fact that the buyer is going to rent the basement. And it works out well in this particular scenario because there's parking on the front and the back and they can come in. We've gone as far as, like we just, a quick story, Charles Yellow Letter. Once we bought this one, I sent yellow letters out to like pretty much everybody in the neighborhood, and we actually are closing on one Wednesday right here on North Capitol Street, another deal from these exact yellow letters. But it actually has the front, they call them English basements with the, you know, you have an entrance up top and an entrance down low. We've gone as far, we couldn't do it on this one because of, you know, the front going on to Rhode Island, but we'll actually put an entrance into the front of the house because it does add a lot of value.
Any other yes.
Question?
If you do a kitchen in the basement, you have to change the zoning permit from a single family home to a multi-family home?
Right, that's a great question. So, each jurisdiction is totally different. My understanding, and don't quote me because like I said, I'm not an attorney, but in DC, it's called certificate of occupancy. So you can make it a 1 unit or a 2 unit. If you have living space and you want to rent the basement as a separate unit, it has to be separated from the upstairs of the house in order to get what's called a certificate of occupancy. If, like in this particular situation, the door is open so they could technically come upstairs, you would do it as a single family and you would have a roommate agreement, okay? So you can legally rent the basement. The actual ceiling height has to be 7 feet 6 inches, I believe. So there are certain parameters.
No, that's not a. I mean, you could rent because people rent everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, once you own it, you can do what you want with it. But legally, like to make it a legal unit, you have to meet certain requirements. Like if you were to try to rent it out and have a whatever, like a Section 8 or someone approve of it, there are certain requirements. But there are properties that people rent out where they don't meet the requirements. But like you said, it becomes a roommate agreement.
In this type of situation, you don't sell it as a 2 unit. You sell it as a single family, and what you do with that other unit is your business.
So it was listed as single family with an in-law suite.
And so by having the door that opens up to the second floor, legally they can come in and go. If you blocked it out, you'd have to get the permit.
Then you would have to get a
change the zoning and then sell it
as 2 units. Exactly.
Just to have the washer dryer and the heating system down there, so the owners will be able to
Right, it's not two separate, exactly.
And that's what the difference, when you get a C of O, then it has to be separate metered, everything. It's two entities, that's when it becomes a multi-family where a 2-unit is totally a 2 separate unit, A and B, and you get, on your addresses, you're getting two different things. This is just a single family house with the option of the owner to rent it out and do what they want with it.
And this is your classic scenario as investors years ago. Because investors years ago, should I say persons years ago that was in this game, what they would usually do is to buy a house and buy that house and live in the top unit, rent out the basement unit. And then that way they're able to compensate or afford a higher value house because they got that supplemental income. Now one of the key parts to that scenario is this. You can get full value when you sell it if you stay in the property. This is a strategy that, man, it's beautiful. Buy a house, live in it for over 2.5 years, and when you sell it, you get 100% of the capital gains. Because you lived it, right, tax-free, because you lived it in there over 2.5 years.
Primary residence.
Correct. Yeah. And you can do that over and over again.
You don't have to use a 1031 or anything like that.
Yep. So that's another strategy that people are doing that.
To get to the dream home.
Yeah, to get to it. There you go. Yeah.
Every 2 years.
For an example, I had a brother, he started out with a little townhouse, lived there for a couple of years, the market increased, he made $100,000 off of living in that property, took that $100,000 and put it totally down. If you put $100,000 down on a property, now he's into more of his dream home where he's in like a $600,000-$700,000 house where, you know, but that's how people, I mean, some people will move every 2 years and make, I mean, that's their business. They're making money, they're moving and moving and moving. Like we met a lady, she's like, I'm happy with my house, but I'm moving in 2 years because I'm going to move. And that's what they do. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I got one, slightly different. When you go get when you're buying your properties, are you writing your own contracts or using a realtor to write your contracts?
I mean, it depends. I mean, if the realtor.
Well, you find it yourself.
Oh, when I find it out myself.
When you find the property yourself, are you to write your own contracts?
Yeah, we just write our own contracts. Typically, I will just use the actual Maryland. They have a lot of different disclosures and stuff in D.C. I'll just use the first 11 pages of it as an owner to owner.
What about getting the comps? Because one problem that I have is, you know, I have an eviction company.
Okay.
So we're going after a lot of people I evict. We're going after properties with the, but the problem that I'm having is getting the comps on the property, because when you go online, there's tons of different numbers. Right. And I have a couple of realtors we've done a couple of deals with before, and they work with us. Okay. But it's a lot of properties, and it's a lot of comps to pull, and the information I get online is not as accurate as what I get from.
I'll tell you right now, there's one service you can do that's the most accurate out there and the best one for investors that is not an actual agent. Frankly, MLS. Frankly, MLS actually pull the actual comps from Maris. So it's actually 100% Maris integrated. FranklyMLS.com, and it's free. The key part to Frankly MLS is not only does it pull the actual comps from Maris, but it actually pulls the remarks. And that's huge, because the remarks is what you use a lot of times when you're talking about apples to apples and so on. A newly rehabbed house or a house that hasn't been rehabbed that's a fixer-upper. That's in the remarks. Most services online don't give you that.
That's what I thought.
Frankly, MLS gives you that.
Okay.
So that's the best service when you're talking about comps as a real estate investor. If you're trying to get access to MLS, there's an easy way to do that. All you got to do is be an assistant to a licensed agent. So all you got to do is find a friendly agent that likes you and say, hey, I'm going to bring you all my deals that I come across if you let me be your assistant. If that agent says yes, all they do is submit the application to their broker that you're their assistant, and now you get access to MLS for $95 a quarter. That's it.
You'll have your own login, password. You'll basically have access, but you won't be an agent, so you can't.
Right, that's what I mean.
But you can get the comps.
How do we bring those deals to you then after we do that with them?
Well, our goal here isn't just to have you work with us. Our goal here is to educate you. That's what our goal is. If you want to work with us, that's fine. But remember, like I told you earlier, It's about sharing and giving, not with any strings attached. So I'm not just going to tell you how you can work with us. I'm going to tell you how you can make money.
And, I mean, we'll run the comps for you, but in this instance, he might be using it for something different.
Right.
So it's just information.
Right.
At the end of the day, all this right here is just tools.
Right.
And in completing a real estate transaction, it comes to a point where really the name wholesale or fix and flip, it just becomes ambiguous. It just becomes a big mush because you do whatever it takes to close a deal. So, do you have a standard contract? There's been times where I've actually closed a deal with a contract that was made out of a napkin. I was talking to somebody, we agreed to sell, the person was experienced, we wrote it on a napkin. I took the napkin to the title company. They laughed and they said, hey, we know who you're working with. And, you know, and that was a contract. It was on a napkin. At the end of the day, these are tools. And when you're building something, the more tools you have, the more elaborate you can do, the more elaborate or more detailed you can do. So these are just tools that we have to help you do more deals depending upon the situation that you have. So it doesn't mean just using it to work with us. It means to use it to work with yourself, or with somebody else, or anyone.
Our goal is not for everybody to be bird dogs for the rest of your life. It's kind of like the old saying, you know, give a guy a fish, he eats for a day. Teach him to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So the goal is that you'll learn, and then eventually, you know, it'll be a natural progression. And then, yeah, it might not be a scenario where you're bringing us every deal, but over the long term, you'll still be partnering with us, whether, you know, maybe you start rehabbing 50 houses and we come to you and find out who your electrician is.
I remember when I started.
Yeah,
Exactly. And we keep on using the term bird doggers, but you could be a bird dogger or you could be a wholesaler. The key is the deal. That's the key. That's what we're looking for in this system. So it doesn't matter which one you want to call yourself. Right. We just told you that a bird dogger is just giving you the basic information and you're going through the deal. But if you're a wholesaler and you're knowledgeable and you know how to negotiate it and you get it at a good price that you think we're going to want to buy at, you give us that deal as well.
And that's why as a wholesaler, I mean, there's many different windows to look at this. It's not just as a fix-a-flipper or a bird dog or wholesale. You can put people together and create and get funded as a transaction engineer for creating a deal together. There's so many different aspects you can look at this as far as in creating a profit. Even if you're looking at it from the aspect of a wholesaler, what's more important to an end buyer is a knowledgeable wholesaler. So if you're a wholesaler and you understand your product and you know the value and you have something instead of just, hey, here's a deal, look at it yourself, you're more valuable. And everything that we keep hearing over and over and over again today is talking about your own personal value. Or I had a relationship with this architect, I had a relationship with this contractor, I had a relationship with this lawyer, I had a relationship with this, but everything is all relationship. It's 100% relationship. That's it. I mean, if you really want to master anything, master people. If you master people, you'll be able to do these type of deals. If you say, hey, I talk to you, I don't mind talking to you. How do you get so many deals? He doesn't mind talking to you. So this is what it's all about, and understanding these right here can help you in any part that you choose to enter to real estate.
The easiest way for you guys to get discouraged and say real estate don't work is when you're running around looking at a lot of stuff that ain't deals. Right. That's the easiest way, and that's what's going to happen when you get in this business and you say, man, real estate, this doesn't even work. That's because you just burnt yourself out because you're out there looking at 150 houses and 149 and a half of them was bad deals. You have to be able to determine what's a good deal and what's a bad deal, or know where the resources to go at to determine what's a good deal and that's a bad deal. And that's going to get you to stay in this game longer. Not to mention, one of the things that made me want to be in this game longer was when I first saw my mentor started making money. When I made my first $1,000, to me, that's when real estate worked. For you, that's when real estate is going to work. When you make that first dollar in that check, I don't care how small it is, you're going to know real estate works. And that's what it's going to take for a lot of us. That's how it was for me. My first year, I made $2,572. My first year. And I said, this is for me. This is for me.